Hello, Year 7. It's Mrs. Parsons here, and we are continuing our study of non-fiction texts today. As usual, we'll start out with our technical accuracy starter. It's a good idea for you now to have printed off, please, your technical accuracy sheet and the main resource for today. Which is our non-fiction text called Touching the Void. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to identify the inaccuracies in this text. These sentences are to do with the text we're going to be studying later in a few minutes, and any inaccuracies here in spelling or punctuation are there to be corrected, and you can write them here. So I'll ask you to pause the video now for about 3 minutes, I would suggest, and then we'll go over the inaccuracies in these sentences. So pause the video now and write your accurate sentences, please. Okay, so the inaccuracies you might have picked up on, I hope you've picked up on, are a capital letter there, C. Challenges are there to be taken, so Microsoft is correcting what it doesn't like already. There should be THERE, to be taken. Now we could have a full stop here and a capital letter there, or we could have a semicolon here. And obviously achieve should be corrected here, as Microsoft is telling us, ACHIEVE, full stop. Okay, the rope was dangling over the cliff's edge, obviously a capital T here. The rope was dangling over the cliffs. The edge belongs to the cliff, so we should have an apostrophe for possession there. And perhaps a semicolon here, because we have two sentences within this one. A semicolon here, the rope was dangling over the cliff's edge, semicolon, or a full stop. And a capital here, which we already have. Or you could have a hyphen. I needed to recover my wits, full stop. Okay. So I hope you uncovered and discovered some of the inaccuracies there, and you were able to correct them. Okay, we're going to move to the main body of our lesson now, which is a non-fiction text based on a very ambitious mountain climb that went awry. So we'll just click here and we'll get, okay. So we're still working on understanding non-fiction texts, and our task asks us to read the text below, taken from Touching the Void by Joe Simpson. So because it's a non-fiction text, we know it's true. It's a true story, a true account of Joe's time on the mountain, and it's an account of danger in a hostile environment. Okay, so as usual, I will read through the text with you, if you can follow along with me. And we start straight in on the action, so we call that in media res, in on the action, straight in on movement. Okay. I glanced at the rope stretched tautly above me. It ran up the wall and disappeared onto the slope above. There was no possibility of getting back to that slope some 20 feet above me. I looked at the wall of the crevice close by my shoulder. On the other side, another wall of ice towered up 10 feet away. I was hanging in a shaft of water ice. The decision to look down came as I was in the process of turning. I swung round quickly, catching my smashed knee on the ice wall and howling in a frenzy of pain and fright. Instead of seeing the rope twisted loosely in a void beneath me, I stared blankly at the snow below my feet, not fully believing what I was seeing. A floor. There was a wide, snow-covered floor 15 feet below me. There was no emptiness and no black void. I swore softly and heard it whisper off the walls around me. Then I let out a cry of delight and relief which boomed round the crevice. I yelled again and again, listening to the echoes, and laughed between the yells. I was at the bottom of the crevice. When I recovered my wits, I looked more carefully at the carpet of snow above which I was dangling. My jubilation was quickly tempered when I spotted dark, menacing holes in the surface. It wasn't a floor after all. The crevice opened up into a pear-shaped dome, its sides curving away from me to a width of 50 feet before narrowing again. The snow floor cut through the flat end of this cavern, while the walls above me tapered in to form the thin end of the pear, barely 10 feet across and nearly 100 feet high. Small fragments of crusty snow patterned down from the roof. So what we have there is a very hard tale of one man, Joe Simpson, trying to survive his time on the mountain. I looked round the enclosed vault of snow and ice, familiarizing myself with its shape and size. The walls opposite closed in, but didn't meet. A narrow gap had been filled with snow from above to form a cone which rose all the way to the roof. It was about 15 feet wide at the base and as little as 4 or 5 feet across the top. Okay, again, a true tale of a difficult account of Joe Simpson's time on a mountain. Okay, I'm going to ask you to have a look at activity 1 now, based on the text we've just read. We talked last week fairly extensively about the difference between explicit and implicit information. And we need to be very careful here. So if we could have a look at activity 1, the 3 statements below are very similar. Circle the statement that you think is true. Now please don't guess here. Okay, please do not guess. Always, the text I always say is your best friend, so go back to the text. All right. I'll give you a minute on this, folks, a minute. Okay, folks, so the three statements below are very similar. Circle the statement that you think is true, and it is the middle one if you check through your text. Joe's jubilation was short-lived. Now that can be proven here with the phrase, my jubilation was quickly tempered when I spotted dark menacing holes in the surface. Okay, so we know that his jubilation was very short-lived. Okay, activity 2. What is implied, so what is implicit, we're looking at implicit information here, by the following quotation from the text, when I recovered my wits. Okay, so let's go back to the text to see what is going on within that bit of the text there. Okay, and then we can sort of try and figure out what is going on in Joe's head. What is underneath the surface of that quotation? What is being implied by it? So let's have a look. And let's try and find that bit of the text. When I recovered my wits. So we're scanning through the text. Okay, so we know before that we have the quotation here, when I recovered my wits here. But let's look at what's happened before that so we can get an idea of what was going on in Joe's head. There was no emptiness and no black void. I swore softly and heard it whisper off the walls around me. Then I let out a cry of delight and relief which boomed round the crevice. I yelled again and again, listening to the echoes, and laughed between the yells. I was at the bottom of the crevice. When I recovered my wits, I looked more carefully at the carpet of snow above which I was dangling. So, what is he trying to say there? When I recovered my wits. I'd like you to write at least here 2 sentences about what is being implied from the following quotation from the text. So pause the video now for 2 minutes, and I'd like you to write 2 sentences about what this suggests about Joe's state of mind. 2 minutes. Okay, folks, so you have paused the video and unpaused it now. I would suggest that you would have written something about the fact that Joe was feeling perhaps prematurely happy and excited about the fact that he was no longer in as much danger. However, he looked around him and realized that logically he was still in as much danger as he had been before, when he recovered his wits, when his brain took over, really. So ideas along those lines. Okay, I hope you've written 2 full sentences, perhaps joined them with a connective also, or additionally. And that's what I would be looking for there. Okay, folks, there is an opportunity here now if you pause the video and have a look at some time of some visuals here, a video of Joe Simpson's time on the mountain, and that's a really interesting bit to watch. Right, activity 4. We're filling in our table now, folks. We're breaking down the information as we normally do. So our question here for the non-fiction text is, how is language used to present the dangers Joe faced on the mountain? So we have 3 quotations from the text here, and I would like you to spend 10 or 11 minutes filling in our table as we normally do. So you're zooming in on some of these words. You're trying to identify the technique, whether it's a metaphor, a simile, use of personification, and then exploring what these words and phrases suggest and how language is used here. Now, remember that the word explore is deeper than the word explain. So explore suggests that you could be coming up with alternative information, alternative interpretations. So howling suggests this, but it might also suggest that. Frenzy suggests that Joe is feeling this. It also suggests that. Okay, there is no need here at this point in your exploration to write in full sentences. These ideas can just be bullet pointed down. Be careful here, dark menacing holes in the surface. There's no real technique there other than these really powerful adjectives. So I would write in this box here, powerful adjectives. But there are techniques here and here that you want to be able to identify and then explore those. So at this point, I would pause the video for 10 or 11 minutes and really explore that language. Now, the best way to explore the language always is to go back to the text and see what is happening around that, around those quotations. That is the best way. So pause the video here for about 10 or 11 minutes and see how much exploration you can do of the language. Okay, you have paused that video and you've paused this video, and what we're going to do is just go over what you might have come up with here, folks. So howling in a frenzy of pain and fright, you might have put metaphor here, specifically the type of metaphor. You might have identified zoomorphism. So Joe is presenting himself here as some sort of animal, perhaps like a wolf in pain. The idea of frenzy suggests that he is, there's some sense of a lack of control about him. There's a sense of chaos about it, about the situation he finds himself in. He is not in control. And the idea of pain and fright suggests those are nouns, folks. Frenzy, again, an abstract noun, so you might have been as specific as that. And if you have been as specific as that in your analysis, give yourselves a pat on the back. So the nouns frenzy, pain, and fright suggest deep difficulties, a really fractured mental state. Okay. Yeah, okay. Let's go on to the next one, folks. Dark, menacing holes in the surface. Looking at this, menacing suggests, I guess that really is, could be seen as using personification. I would accept that as a technique there, really, when I look deeper into that. But the powerful adjectives dark and menacing, in your exploration, you might have identified or suggested that there is a real sense of entrapment. There's a sense that the holes there are quite monstrous. They are there to swallow Joe up, that he's feeling deeply, deeply frightened and intimidated by the mountain. You might have come up with something like that. Okay, the last one here, folks, enclosed vault of snow and ice. Okay, that is quite simply a metaphor, that the mountain, the crevice, was an enclosed vault of snow and ice. Enclosed, the adjective enclosed suggests a sense of entrapment, a sense that Joe feels that he is in an inescapable situation. And the noun vault, well, that suggests something deeply dark and intimidating. Really is sort of a very cold place that is locked away, perhaps, that he's feeling locked away from civilization. So you might have come up with ideas like this. Obviously, those aren't the only answers, folks. You know, this is open to interpretation, and those are just indicative ideas. That's what we call them. Okay, so for home practice, our question here is, how is language used to present the dangers Joe faced on the mountain? Now, what you'll notice is that is the same question as we have here. All we've done here is broken it down into the table form. So all of the information that you've used in the table form, I'd like you to put that into paragraph form and be as detailed as you can. You are always rewarded by me and by any English teacher for depth and detail in your writing. But what I'd really like to see is that you are using these phrases to develop your points. I hope that is clear, folks, and you can send that work back to me for marking at the following email address. It's SueJenP, SueJenP @gmail.com. What I will do is I will mark this digitally and send it back to you with feedback. Okay? I really hope that all of that is clear, and good luck.